Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to add to what you're saying, spirit and truth. And we're not seeing a lot of that today. And I am assuming maybe this is the reason for the unbalance that we have. If anyone has any questions they would like to ask, feel free. YJ, do you have a question or a comment?
Oh, no, not at this time. I'm very interesting topic. I'm just listening, and I'm learning a lot. Thank you very much.
Okay, we appreciate that. Any comments, encouragement that we can offer to Reverend Dr. Sheryn Todd-El Bey that also helps her as well? If you want to say, if you're enjoying the education we're receiving, she welcomes that as well. Please feel free to call 1-347-857-4296. If you have any questions, then press 1. Your hand will go up, and that will let me know that you'd like to ask a question. Dr. Sheryn, I'm enjoying what I'm hearing as well. But I do have a question for you. What is the simplest way for us to get the balance that we need? Because I know a lot of times people, their time are limited, and there's always an excuse, oh, I don't have time to do this or time to do that. So is there a simple way that we can learn to get the balance that we need?
Yes. One thing is to determine what your priority is. If you're no matter how much you work, no matter what a good mother you think you are, any excuse you have for not taking up time to find out the truth and to know yourself is a self-destructive mode. And the scriptures say that a house divided against itself will fall. So if you have such a busy schedule that you don't have time to get acquainted with your higher self, then you're set in the self-destruct mode. And you can't expect your partner to know and understand you when you don't know and understand your own self. And you cannot understand yourself or your children or your partner if you don't know and understand yourself. So the first thing to do is to set your priorities. What is it you want? And why do you want what you want? That's the first thing to do, to ask yourself those questions. And we have to realize that his story is not the truth. His story is exactly that, his story, devoid of feminine. And we wonder why the yin and yang, or the people in the world today, and especially young people, are off balance. Why they don't, want to be, they want to be with the same sex. Because the spirit of confusion starts in the church. Very early on, I talked about Genesis 1. And when I talk to people about the spirit of the mother, especially Christians, and I am a Christian, so I can say what I'm saying, I tell them that you have to have the feminine involved in this. And they said, they were arguing with me, and I said, well, you've never read the scriptures. Because the very first book and the very first chapter says, in the beginning, the Elohim created mankind in their image. Male and female they created them. Male and female. Mm-hmm. So the Elohim, the gods, are male and female, positive and negative energies. So, first of all, start reading for yourself and ask the Spirit to teach you. Yeshua HaMashiach said that I leave with you a comforter, and she will lead you and guide you in all truth. That's the Spirit that nurtures you, that encourages you from inside yourself. He said, know ye not that the kingdom is within you? And that kingdom is made up of scientifically of the male and female. And so whenever and however it happened in his H-I-S story, God the Father decided to upset the balance of power and be all powerful without the gods, the mother. The thought appeared, floated by, and was absorbed by both the male and the female. We can't just blame the male for this. That thought was absorbed by both the male and the female, and the nightmare of fear, competition, jealousy, deceit, death, loss, and scarcity began at that time. And without the woman's agreement to and acceptance of this mad thought, the imbalance could have never happened. So this is another thing that's important in this day and time, that we stop blaming other people for our problems and take responsibility and get ourselves in order. And then what will happen, that will overflow into our environment. And even things that are said in our DNA are influenced by our environment. So if you have an environment conducive to health and healing, to light and truth, that environment will heal your DNA and the problems that are happening in us at a DNA level. Kind of a long answer for that short question, huh?
You're doing fine. I thank you for that. I'd like to thank the people in chat for being here, our listening audience as well, those by blog radio, by telephone, or any other means that you're listening to the program. Our guest today is Reverend Dr. Sheryn Todd-El Bey, speaking on spiritual motivational teaching, love and power in a world without limits. In our chat, we have Alpho, guest 2897. I Be the Wise One, Miss India Declare, my mentor from the India Declare show, aired Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Please join her show if you get an opportunity to. She's about politics and a variety of other topics, and I listen to her every day, even at work. I can't always call and make a comment or say anything, but she knows I'm on the phone paying attention and listening as often as I can. So we thank you for being here, Miss India Declare. We also have Perry Steele from the Perry Steele Show, and Perry also has some influence in me having this show. I was co-host on his show, and then I branched off and started my own. So again, I'd like to give thanks to Mr. Perry Steele as well. And my co-host, Mr. YJ, thank you so much for being here. If anyone have any questions, again, please call. Here, 1-347-857-4296. Or if you have a comment, Dr. Sheryn Todd-El Bey would appreciate any comments you have or any questions so that we know that you're understanding or gaining some kind of knowledge. So thank you, everyone, for being here again. The question, YJ, do you have a question or comment?
No, not at this time.
Okay, what I wanted to ask you, and I know it might seem a little far-fetched, but I'm going to ask you anyway. The positive and the negative, does it have an identity or could it be either or? Could the male be positive and or negative or vice versa?
Well, it's not talking about the sexual orientation. That's a scientific.
Right, I mean,
no, the positive is the positive and the negative is the negative. And they are two sides of the, maybe you could say, the same pendulum. And so when we get too far to the positive pole, then we tend to be too staunch in our beliefs, always right, and always in control, manipulative, all the masculine things, maybe more warrior-like than we should be. And this is in the personality, because it's also, we find this in science as well. So I'm just talking about where we can identify with the personality. And then the negative, or the feminine pole, is more, as I said, subtle and receptive. More can be penetrated by thoughts, whether they're good thoughts or thoughts conducive to health and peace, or whether they're thoughts that cause worry, confusion, fear. those are the aspects of our personality that we can get off balance in and cause this really is the bottom line that causes us to be unhealthy and diseased. It's not being balanced in that area of our disposition or our emotions or our personality. And the feminine part of us is the emotional part. And it's often influenced by the things that are going on in our environment. And too much of it will cause us to be jittery and nervous and anxious. Whereas the positive part, when it's off balance, the masculine part of ourselves, when it's off balance, as I said, would be to be abusive, maybe. And that can happen in a woman or a man. So it is what it is. Scientifically, you can't change the two. The two work together for good. That's what it's for. So if you get too much of one thing, you can see what's happened in our politics and in the religious system. The religious system, in fact, has become a political system.
Right.
Because
absolutely.
the father, right, and then it becomes perverted.
Mm.
And then when the feminine, we've just been, trying to so much please and get ahead in this system that we have also joined in the perversion and then left our children open to whatever whims that come through. And so how can a generation be balanced when they have had no teachers and no examples to follow?
You're absolutely right. I mean, I see that every day, whereby our children are just they're going astray because they're left to raise themselves. The parents aren't taking the time with them like I know my parents, and family members took a lot of time with us and made sure we got the right upbringing and the right teaching. So it wasn't left up to us to guide ourselves in the world, and that's we're seeing a lot of that today. I mean, it's really sickening to see how much the young people today, they have no real teachers, and they need their parents to.
Well, one thing I would like to say in defense of this generation is just imagine how scary it must be to know that you're the only one with any sense in your house, or to think that, and that there's no one to teach you what's in your spirit. Every generation is born with the truth in their DNA because they're born to fulfill a destiny. So you have no one raising you up. Years ago, hundreds of years ago, we as indigenous people, the ancestors knew how to identify the children. And they raised those children up to be who they were created to be. They named them out of their character for what they were going to accomplish in the earth. So can you imagine, a child is slapped with a name that no one knows what it means, and then in their DNA they know how it's supposed to be. And then they look at their parents, and that parent may have a degree and be the smartest person in passing tests in the world and think they're setting an excellent example, but they have not connected that child with their true culture. They haven't bothered to find out the truth about what their true culture is. And so without that, you have nothing except for an educated person making a lot of money but has no control over the outward circumstances. They're being victimized just like everyone else. And as long as you're a victim, you're not successful.